Hello, and thank you for joining us today. I'd like to welcome everyone to today's webinar with Bruce Temkin. I have a few items to cover, and then we will get started. During this webinar, all lines will be muted to provide better sound quality for participants. We are recording the entire event, and the recording and related materials will be distributed to all participants via email tomorrow. If you need assistance during the webinar, you can reach the host, that's me, through the WebEx chat panel at any time. We have reserved some time for Q&A at the end of the session. You can enter your questions in the WebEx chat panel at any time during the event, and I will queue them up for our presenters to answer at the conclusion of today's presentation. Now, let's get started. Today's presenter is Bruce Temkin, Customer Experience Transformist and Managing Partner at the Temkin Group. Bruce is widely viewed as a leading expert in customer experience, leadership, and business transformation. He has worked with hundreds of large organizations on defining and accelerating their customer experience journeys. Today, Bruce will share insights on avoiding customer struggle. Bruce, good morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us.
All right. Well, I'm excited to be here. I appreciate Moxie giving me the opportunity to talk about customer struggle. I hope that the information I share helps you avoid struggle in the future. Many of you work really, really hard to convince customers to spend a lot of money with you and to interact with you, and you do a good job of it, right? Many of you bring customers who want to do business with you. Unfortunately, along the way, you end up losing some. They don't want to do business with you for some reason, and that's a really problem because of all the effort you put into, all the energy you put into having customers come your way. As a matter of fact, in our research, we looked at over 100,000 customer interactions, and we found across 20 different industries. And we found that 9.6% of those interactions consumers considered to be poor. So they had bad experience. About 1 out of 10 experiences are bad. And it's a real problem because if you think about it, we put so much energy into getting there to begin with. And when we look at that issue, what we find is just that, in general, I would say, companies tend to be difficult to do business with. So what I'm showing you here is our Temkin effort rating. So this is the 6th year that we've been doing our Temkin experience ratings, and our Temkin experience ratings include 3 elements: success, effort, and emotion. What we're looking here is at the effort component of it. And so there are 294 companies that we've rated across 20 industries, and these are the average ratings for each of the 20 industries. And I've put that green good line, we'll call that the line of goodness, to show where the industries are relative to what we would consider a good effort rating. And what you can see here is there are only 5 industries that on average actually have good effort ratings. What that means is that not only do a majority of industries, but a majority of companies actually are rated poor on effort. And the effort question we ask is a simple one. How easy or hard do you think this company is to work with? So we know that in general, customers are saying enough. Companies are just too hard to do business with. Now, I don't want to leave you there because I always feel like we're big proponents of positive psychology, and so I want to make sure I leave you on a note with giving a shout out to the companies who actually did well in the ratings, and these are the companies, you can see them listed there, that actually top the effort rating. So while I do want to say there's a lot of opportunity and necessity to improve how hard we are to do business with, at the same time, we have to acknowledge some companies that are actually doing a pretty good job. Okay, so those are at an industry level. If we look at effort across all the 294 companies and we break them into these 5 categories, 12% are excellent, have excellent effort ratings. That means they're real easy to do business with. 28% are good, which means they're relatively easy. And you can see down the line, 29% are okay, 23% are poor. That means they're hard to work with. And 8% are very poor, which means, my goodness, They're nearly impossible to do business with, right? So if we look at that spread, it looks like a normal bell curve. So I didn't do this analysis to show you this spread, but this spread allows us to look at what happens to customer behavior when we are difficult to work with them. And what we have here is, on the right-hand side, those are the percentage of consumers that are likely to purchase more minus the percent that are very unlikely. So it's the net positive percentage of consumers that are willing or planning to spend more with the company. And what you see here is, at the top, so when a company is easy to work with, they have excellent effort score, about 3/4 of their customers are likely to buy more from them on a net basis. If we go all the way to the bottom, very poor, it's 39%. And what's interesting, and I actually did this analysis for this webinar, it's interesting that at each decrement, you sort of lose 9% of your customers, right? Think about that for a while. When you have numbers, when it's sort of numbers on a chart like this, I think it's easy to lose sight of what's really happening. And, but to me, when we talk about losing 9% of customers, that is an enormous amount of value that you're losing from your company, right? If you think about it, how hard is it for your organization to generate 9% new customers, right? If you were to come up with a strategy and it said, okay, we're going to drive 9% new customers, for most of you, that's unbelievable, right? That's like a great pickup. But here we show that for each level of effort where we get harder and harder to do business with, we keep losing 9% more of our business. So hopefully you take away from this that effort, being easy to do business with, is really important if we want to retain those customers that we've spent a ton of time, a ton of energy trying to convince to do business with us. So I want to start looking at, when we talk about effort, what does effort really talk about? And how does that relate to struggles? Because to me, effort is an interpretation of the struggles that customers have. And this is a great metaphor, I think, that can describe pretty much everything that I'm going to talk about with customer struggle, right? I love this picture. So if you don't know what this is sort of a picture of a road where someone has designed some gating to slow down and to keep bicyclists from going through, right? So they created these staggered gates because a bike can't just drive right through. They have to slow down, get off, and walk through it. And that's what's happening on the road. But if you look on the right-hand side of there's a little path where just people on bikes are riding around. To me, wonderful, wonderful metaphor, because it shows that sometimes we just have a completely misunderstanding of what our customers are going to do and how likely they are to listen to us, right? If we put a struggle in front of them, right, like if we create a situation like those gates, someone on a bike, and we say, okay, we're going to make it hard for you, what does the customer do? They go somewhere else. They don't put up with our struggles, right? They make decisions about where and how they're going to do business. And so if we think we can keep them on the path and put up these staggered gates, we are mistaken. So I want to talk about some of the ways that actually we make it difficult for our customers, the reason why they won't follow on that path and go around it. And here are a few, right? First of all, your interactions aren't always implemented as designed, right? If we think about it, you might have some great ideas in corporate headquarters about how an interaction you want to have happen in the store. You may have thought out what the script you'd like to have in the contact center. You may have actually designed a flow on your website or on your mobile device. But in fact, the actual interactions may not follow that really nice pattern that you had when you designed it all out. That's one big thing we see all the time. The second is just blatantly, customers don't know what you know, right? If we think about that picture we had where there was we were trying to slow down the bike, it could be that there's something really dangerous ahead of that point where we don't want the biker to actually continue on the road, and we're actually doing it to save them. So we understand all that when we design that, but to the biker, all they see is an obstacle to the thing that they want to do. So that happens all the time in business. We understand why we have steps in the process. If we're an insurer, we understand why you have to ask a bunch of questions to be able to figure out what the prices are. If we have a technology company and we have to have different 800 numbers based on what product you have, that makes sense to us because we understand how our business operates. But it doesn't necessarily make sense to our customers because they don't know what you know, what we know in the business. The third is that customers don't always do what you want them to do, right? That is, in fact, happens all the time, right? We set up a process and a flow, but you know what? Customers choose their own direction. The final thing is that, and this is an important lesson that I want everyone to have, and I make this point at many of the sessions I have, whether they're webinars or training sessions with companies, which is your company is not the center of your customer's universe. We have to stop thinking that when a customer comes and interacts with us, they are just totally committed to that, and that is exactly the thing that they're doing. But in most cases, if a customer is interacting with our company, it's because they want to do something else. And in fact, they're on a journey that will take them somewhere where they want to go, and they have to interact with us. If you think about an online travel agent, right? When a customer comes to book a flight for an online travel agent, they don't really want to book a flight. They want to go on vacation. Their journey is about how do I get to the vacation I want to have, how do I make sure I have a great time, how do I spend time with my family, how do I make decisions about some of the excursions we're going to make because we only have a limited amount of time and I want to make sure that we make the most of it. All of those things are how they view the journey. Booking a flight is not part of their core journey. It's unfortunately something they have to do to enable the journey that they're on. So we need to make sure we're not thinking we're the center of the universe and really focusing as much as possible on what our customer's trying to do. And as part of it, when we try and enable customers, we oftentimes don't quite do it right. And so we've identified 5 types of struggles that customers run into. 5 different struggles that your customers see when they are trying to interact with you. So let's start with the first one. The first one I've called Cryptic Paths. Cryptic Paths. And that's when customers don't know where to go, and when they don't know where to go, they will often choose to go somewhere else. If you think about it, if we have a customer that's starting to work with us, we want to make sure that they are comfortable about where they're heading all along the way, so we don't give them an opportunity to say, this isn't quite working, maybe I'll go somewhere else. And you know this experience. We've all had the experience. If you've gotten to an airport, right, and you can't find the taxi line because the signs are not clear, or there are some signs in some places and then they don't have signage in another, you have experienced cryptic paths. If you have a tech support issue, right, and you're calling up the company to try and get help, and the menu on the IVR doesn't seem to line up with your issue, then you've run into cryptic paths. I was recently trying to purchase a ticket to a baseball game, and I went onto their mobile site, and their mobile site made me select the section I wanted to be in, but every time I selected the section, it was confusing whether I was going to select the particular tickets or whether it was going to select it for me, and it kept going into this loop where I didn't know where to go. That's an example. I didn't know how to go, and I actually ended up leaving that site and going to another ticketing site. So these are issues that run into, and I've listed a few of the situations, right, when we can't see clear next steps, right? A customer should always understand if they're interacting with you, and once again, I'm going to show you these struggles are across lots of different channels. And what's great about this webinar is that Brian, in the end, is going to talk about how Moxie can help you on the digital channels, both mobile and web. And so I think you're going to see some cool stuff at the end on how to focus on what is the most growing channel. But I think these struggles are universal, and it's important to understand them. So clear next steps are important. Or sometimes we put too many next steps in front of someone, right? If you think about trying to go on and I talked about it, maybe you're trying to book a flight on a mobile site, and you're faced with 5 different options for continuing. That's as confusing sometimes as not having any. And then the last one I put on the list, and this has a lot in digital design, which is just illogical interactive controls, right? If instead of saying something, if you have a set of buttons on the bottom where you're processing through a flow, instead of next it says confirm. Well, I don't know what confirm means, right? It's illogical in terms of what I'm looking for. So these are all types of things that create cryptic paths, meaning there's a customer there who wants to get something done with you, but they don't know how to proceed. And when they don't know how to proceed, they will sometimes push their way through, but sometimes they'll just go somewhere else. So that's struggle number 1, cryptic paths. Let's move on to struggle number 2, which is confusing information. Because if customers are confused, they're often unwilling to spend the time to figure things out, right? We don't want to have our customers feel like they don't know what's going on. Now, this is a situation we've all experienced, all 5 of these struggles, but if you want to think about confusing information, especially that first one, company speak, right, which is where a customer is experiencing the language that the company speaks internally, but they have no understanding of it. Think about the last time you got a statement after a doctor or a hospital visit, you know, from the insurance company where it spells out all of the elements. In general, we probably can't understand 10% of what they say because it's just a spit out of their internal database. So that's what we talk about when companies speak, when we use our own terminology. We describe our own processes. We use language that the people inside the company who work in the company understand, but the customers don't. The other part of confusing information is when we have fluffy, non-informative copy, right? And a lot of this comes from, remember I talked about us thinking we're the center of the universe. So when you come and you want to actually, maybe it's a purchase process, and instead of describing what the product does, we talk about how great it is and why you should own it, and I just want to understand what it is that it does, right? If I'm going to purchase a new TV and I have some requirements about, I want to know what size it is because it needs to fit somewhere. I want to know what different specifications are in terms of the picture quality. Those might be things I want to know, but if I bury that after, you know, 500 words of how great this television is without any of that, then it's actually confusing to me because I'm looking for something and you're telling me something else. And then the last one is disjointed content. Let's say I'm trying to find, I want to take my family on a vacation and I want to do a Caribbean vacation, right? I want to fly to somewhere in the Caribbean. I don't care where, because what I really want to do is a beach vacation for my family. Well, if I go to many of the online airline sites, I would have to pick one destination at a time to figure out what the prices are. I have to pick, am I going to St. John, St. Croix, maybe I want to stay in Puerto Rico, but I would actually have to go look and then write down on my own what the prices of flights and hotel are and then come back. So that's a case where I'm struggling because the information exists, but it's disjointed, meaning the information doesn't exist in a single place where I can use it to make the types of decisions that I want. So all of this falls into the category of struggle number 2, which is confusing information. Struggle number 3 is concerning delays. After some amount of wasted time and mistakes, customers stop giving you a second chance. Delays come in all shapes and sizes, right? Delays are when you're working on your mobile device and there's an error, then that's a delay. If it's slow to load, that's a delay. Now, customers aren't sitting there saying that every delay is bad. That's why we talk about concerning delays. At some point, delays run into problems. Customers stop giving you the benefit of the doubt. If you're calling into a contact center and you want to get service, well, if I don't tell you how long it's going to take and I'm sitting on the phone, at some point, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, if you're just on hold and don't know what's going on, that becomes a concerning delay, and you're likely to hang up and go somewhere else. So unexpected cues where we're not expecting them, slow responsive and responsiveness, right? If I'm responsiveness in both the terms of in a digital setting, right, we want to have the page load or the information come back at a speed that keeps us flowing. If it's really, really slow, then our cognitive processing will end up going much faster than whatever the device is that we're interacting with. That creates struggle because we're not able to slow down our process to catch up with it, and it causes problems. So unexpected cues, slow responses, errors. Errors are issues because I put that in here because that's another way in which we're concerned about the delay, right? We put all the information in, we think we got it right, it comes back and says, boy, we have a problem, either a problem with the site's down, problem with information because of the confusing information we were asked for before. All of this causes struggle number 3, which is concerning delays. Okay, I feel like I'm really sort of, at this point, need to say that you're probably doing a good job most of the time, but these struggles, which all of our customers have, show up in a small amount of places, but they can really be problematic. So I don't want you going through here thinking, oh my gosh, Bruce is talking about all these negativeness stuff, but if you can understand what the struggles are that we're discussing, then you can find ways to avoid them, and maybe even more importantly, put your mindset into the view of the customer. Look for the struggles. So I had to give you a positive note because I've gone through 3 struggles, and I don't want you to feel bad. So let's move on to the 4th struggle, which is cloudy value. If customers are unsure about what's at the end of the path, they're less likely to keep heading there. It's interesting. One of the principles of good interaction design is if you want a customer to keep moving, they have to have 2 things. One is they have to believe that they're going to be successful at the end, that there's value at the end of the path. And the second thing is they have to know where to go and have clear next steps. And we've already talked about the Cryptic Paths as one of them. This is the second one. If I don't believe that there's going to be value at the end, or I stop believing that there's going to be value at the end, then I am not likely to continue to move on with you. So we want to make sure that if we're, for instance, if we're going through a process, if we have a process that a customer is going through, that we've laid out the process, that they understand the process that they're going to go through. I know one of the things that like Safe Light Auto Glass does when a technician shows up to repair a car glass is they'll walk them through the process and let them know what the process is going to be so they understand as they see the process evolve that it's heading in the direction that's going to have value. So we want to make sure that customers understand the steps they're going to be going through. The other thing is, let's stay away from premature requests for information, right? You can see this a lot, right? If I'm just trying to, buy an airline ticket from you, if that's part of the process, and we've been talking about that as an interaction for a little bit. If I'm trying to do that, and out of nowhere you ask me for my Social Security number, and you're using the Social Security number because that's going to help you drive better targeting in the future or something like that, well, now I'm like, the value equation's gone. It's cloudy because I'm like, why are you asking me? You're asking me things too early. I don't feel like we've gotten to the point where you've provided me clarity around what I was going to do well enough for me to give you that information. So we start worrying about whether there's enough value in this interaction for me to continue. Then the final one on that list that I put is no emotional reinforcements. I see this a lot mostly on interactions where someone's making a decision on something that is a considered purchase, right? So maybe I'm selecting a new credit card, or maybe I'm purchasing a new auto insurance policy, things that I've had to think about and go through. And if you think about the auto insurance policy one, right, I can go, if I'm going to buy an auto insurance policy online or get a quote, I go through steps, right? I'm going online, I'm doing it. And then in the end, if I've selected a policy and decided to move ahead, there should be something telling me, congratulations, you've selected one of our more popular policies, and you'll be able to work with an insurer that has a AAA rating and has 97% satisfaction from the customer base. So what that type of communication is really about making sure that we don't just at the end of a long process like that say, okay, you're done. And I know it sounds kind of foolish, but I would say that in most of the situations where we look at the experience design, more often than not, it falls into the camp of, okay, you're done, right? So we want to make sure that we're thinking about our customer's emotional state throughout the process, and the cloudy value, to make sure they're getting cloudy value, is make sure that even when they've made the decision to do business with us, whatever decision to purchase something, to use our credit card, to be an auto insurance policyholder, whatever decision they've made, that's not the end of the value equation. We want to make sure they don't have buyer's remorse, and we want to reinforce the emotional value of the things they did. So that's the cloudy value struggle. And now on to the fifth and final struggle, which is collapsing trust. So when customers lose trust, they lose the desire to continue along any path. So if I don't trust you, I'm not going to do anything else with you. It doesn't even really matter where I am. So trust is really an important one, and we've got to make sure that we don't lose it. And so we got to make sure that people believe that they will be successful. And one of the ways they're going to believe they will be successful is if they trust that you're going to help them, right? If I have a technical issue with a product that I bought, and I'm trying to get help, whether it's online or over the phone, and you are making it clear that you are there to support me, that we are committed to helping our customers like you, get these problems solved, and if you can do that in a way that, and you haven't let down my trust in the past, then I will trust you to help me, and I will spend more time trying to get to the point where you will. If I don't trust you, then I start ending up giving you less and less leeway. And it's interesting. So if you think about, the difference between a company who you really trust and one that you don't, the one that you don't, any type of signal they give you, you're going to interpret in the way of, oh my goodness, there they are, they're doing it again, right? They're not going to be there between 2 and 4, even though they said it, so I can't trust them to be. Whereas a company that you really do trust, you will give them the benefit of the doubt, and you're willing to go farther and farther along. So it's really important that we don't lose trust with our customers, and we don't allow our customers to lose trust in us. And one of the ways that trust happens is that second bullet there, which is just disjointed experience across handoffs. I see this all the time. And handoffs are, they're a handoff when we go from, if we're online or on a mobile device and we need to go to the contact center, right? We had an interaction, and maybe we want to have it with either a phone call or with an online chat. Those are handoffs. If we are moving from, if we were in a airport and we were traveling with an airline, and then we went from that experience where we had maybe our flight got delayed, to online where we start looking at our information because we want to change it. All that stuff is where trust can be lost, right? If those handoffs behave in a way that the customer believes that you no longer have any understanding of who they are, you lose trust, right? If I've interacted with you and I move to another channel or there's a handoff between people and the context of what I've done with you is lost, then I lose trust in you. Then the final piece is just selfish behavior, right? That's when companies start thinking, and this goes into what I was talking about before about being the center of the universe. If we start thinking about what the center of the universe, and we stop remembering that our job as businesses is really to help our customers get value out of whatever they're going to do with us, and really our goal is not to worry about what we need, but to in fact help customers get what they need. And so the less selfish behavior we can have, the more likely the customer is to trust that we are on their side, and to trust that interacting with us will in fact be something that's good for them, and they will continue to do business with us. So that's the fifth struggle I want to talk about, which was collapsing trust. So if we look at all five of them together, those are the 5 customer struggles that I want you to always look out for, always keep an eye on, and always think about when you're interacting with the customer, when you see an interaction, when you're trying to improve some connections you have with the customers, whether you're trying to design new flows in a retail store, whether you're trying to think about the connection that an agent has with a customer who calls, or an agent has when they are chatting online with a customer, or the online experience that you have when you design a website, or the mobile experience that's growing over time. All of those situations are likely to create struggles, cryptic paths, confusing information, concerning delays, cloudy value, and collapsing trust. And if we can look for them, and if you can actually cut down on them, then you can be successful at keeping the customers who started off wanting to do business with you. And to put it back in terms of that bicycle path that we started with, if you can focus on your customers' journeys and not your interactions, right? If we can keep an eye on what is it that they want to do, how are they doing it, how are they reacting to the things that we've done, right? Then we won't run into the situation where we throw obstacles at our customers and they decide not to do business with us because we're just too difficult to do business with. And if you do that, then I think if you remove some of those struggles, then those customers who want to do business with you will actually do business with you, and that's what we all want. We really want to have our customers remain loyal, continue to want to do business with us, and they will stay happy and buy more from us. So that's all I wanted to talk about in terms of the 5 struggles. Now I want to turn over to Brian, who's going to show you how to use a lot of your digital channels to address these struggles. Brian, it's all yours.
Thanks so much, Bruce. Really appreciate that. You know, the struggle business, or the business of resolving struggle, is something that I've personally been in for a very long time. So the talk really resonated for me. I think it's relevant in terms of my own personal journey to talk about how Moxie has arrived on the scene and what we're trying to do now to alleviate struggle. But not only alleviate struggle, but just as Bruce talked about, you know, let's support what the customer wants to do in the end, which is to transact with you with the least amount of friction possible. So, you know, my own personal journey started, I used to work in the web analytics space, and then, you know, always looking at, back then there was no concept really of struggle. It was really a website was an IT function, and the business was just starting to get involved. And really, back then, we just kind of scratch our heads and start saying, geez, people are abandoning at step 3. You know, are there a bunch of errors there, or what's going on? We never even thought about it in terms of these kind of emotional or you know, usability kind of scenarios. It was really just an IT function. And then that led to my sort of the next journey, which is I got into the customer experience management space. I worked with a company called Tea Leaf, and that was where we were really for the first time able to sort of say, no, struggle's a real thing. And we actually have a solution where we can look for patterns of negative behavior and take some. But now with Moxie, the journey has sort of gone to the next step. What I think is really interesting is that when you, the big irony of all of this is that when we try to implement some of the best practices around making a website as easy to use as possible, or, you know, to make it as friction-free, or when we even sit down and sort of, I want to address some of the things that Bruce talked about. I think, ironically, a lot of our efforts are sort of done in the back room. They're sort of done in rehearsal. They're sort of done before we actually get on stage with our customers. And what I mean by that is, we really, for the majority of the technologies that we apply, or even the strategies that we apply, it really goes into the website itself, the way it looks, the flows, the design of the website, and even from a personalization standpoint, right, which I think of in some ways is, you know, it's key. We have to have it, and it really, you know, sets the stage for the way the store looks to that particular person. All of that is sort of done ahead of time. And then when the person gets there, we cross our fingers and we hope we get it right. There's really, ironically, all of the data we gather typically with the investment that we make in software usually are data collection things, and the solution really ends up delivering you a set of reports to give you insight. And then you go back in the lab in the back room and you take corrective action, and hopefully you get it right. So I think one of the real things that we can do to hopefully combat struggle is yet another step. And I'm really excited with Moxie because for the first time, we're staffing the online store. We're actually, if I was going to add another bullet to Bruce's deck, I would say you got to be there for your customer. I mean, imagine if, you know, Apple was going to release the iPhone 7 tomorrow, and their strategy was, let's just fill the stores with product, let's make it look beautiful, and then we'll have a little velvet rope that goes up to our proprietary register at the end, and then we'll all hide in the back room. Sounds like a terrible strategy. Who's going to help everybody find their accessories that they need? Who's going to help, you know, get the right phone, the right plan, answer the questions about how to use it? It just wouldn't happen. But for some reason, we think that's a great idea online. Let's just be completely hands-off. Even when it comes to some of the way that chat companies, you know, deploy their software, even there it seems a little tone deaf. You could be happy as a clam going along, and all of a sudden an offer to chat pops up in front of you and stops you in your tracks in what you're doing. It really doesn't say, hey, we know what's going on with you. It just says, I have really no clue what you're doing. I know phishing for chats like this leads to better outcomes for me, so I don't really care about you much. So I think what we're really trying to do here with Moxie is to give customers, you guys, the ability to deal with your customers and in real time manage through some of these struggle issues. And it really is a convergence of the analytic world with a digital channels environment. And that's what we really mean by staff the online business. It's really just being there, having the analytics to understand where the person is in their journey, and catering an engagement strategy to them that reduces friction, doesn't stop them in their tracks, but deals with trying to eliminate some of these cryptic paths and gets them past points of natural points of, or obvious points of struggle, but just also helps them make decisions. So, you know, I think what in some ways companies have started to see is that, you know, there's a no-brainer out there that deploying chat in certain places is a really good thing. It does lead to higher conversion rates, and it does lead to higher order values. But I would argue that there's a lot more ROI and potential out there, and as Forrester's starting to analyze the ROI of Moxie customers, I think this is going from just an anecdotal observation into the world of reality here, which is chat or digital channels or being there for your customer. There's a lot more evolution that we can do. First of all, not everybody wants to chat, right? Or not everybody wants to chat when you want to chat with them, right? So how do we reach a broader audience? How do we be there for customers that don't just respond to these sort of phishing attempts at chats? Are there other techniques that we can do that would have the same kind of impact, right? So I think when you're looking at Moxie is on the front lines of saying, how can we be there for customers? Let's not just provide a great chat product. How can we be there for customers, provide journey analytics and e-commerce analytics that show you in real time the uplift of the decisions that you're making, but also give the business user a very easy and flexible framework to set this whole thing up so that it doesn't get stale and that we can stay in the store with our customers. So with that, I'm going to attempt to do a little here. So let's go ahead and share my desktop, talk about how we do some stuff in real time. So let's pretend for just a moment that I'm sort of a grandfatherly figure. Holidays are approaching. You know, I want to get some tablets for my grandkids because that's what everybody's doing these days. And, you know, like every other grandpa out there, I want to get a good deal on a tablet. So my journey starts on Google like a lot of other journeys do, right? So I come in, I hit tablet sale, I see a whole bunch of choices, kind of catch one that catches my eye, or I sort of fall there. And let's see if I can get into my website here. Here we go. Perfect. And I land on a website. I land on this page here. And, you know, you talk about a cryptic journey. There are lots and lots of factions that run websites, and there are competing priorities. Product placement, about pathing, about attribution, about campaigns, all these different things that go into the design and the flow of a website. But what we have here is we see Google has sort of dropped us off at the front door, and there's a ton of tablets here. And typically there wouldn't be anybody else there to help you out. You'd sort of be on your own at this point to kind of sift through things. And so one thing that we can do up front is just in a very subtle way, you see Moxie's up here in the corner. And it's the floating bell. We sort of use a concierge type approach to engagement. There's both this proactive offer, which I'll get into in a second, but underneath that it also is the ability to have at the customer's fingertips, they always have to have the ability to know where it is that they can get assistance or get help. And you can imagine in a mobile environment, that is particularly critical, right? If I have to leave where I am to go where I am in the store, think about it actually, you're in the aisle, right, looking at the product. And if you have to attempt to go in the back room to go find help, you think it's probably kind of a crummy store. Well, it's kind of the same thing here. So in this case, what that little greeting did, which was to say, hey, look, where you're looking for, go ahead and grab the sale objects right there. It kind of performs the same sort of feature as like a greeter in the store. It's a very subtle thing that just sort of says, you know, eliminates and works on that cryptic path. Hey, we know what you're up to. We understand that you wanted to get a sale. You're looking for a sale item. You land on a particular path. Here's where that is. Very simple. It's not taking over the desktop. It's not getting in my way. I could easily ignore it. It's a very subtle clue, though, that says, hey, look, I know something about you, and in real time I'm providing a service. So here we are. We're on to sort of the next phase. And again, that was sort of the awareness phase. Does this company even have a set of products that would work for me? And so now I move on to the next phase. They do have some tablets. In fact, they do have some on sale. But now I'm off on the next phase of the journey, which I would really call sort of the the consideration phase, which is, boy, which one of these is probably best for me? How do I pick a product? And as you can see, as I'm going through these categories, there's a ton of product here. Again, grandfatherly figure. I'm awash in prices. I'm awash in technical mumbo jumbo. I'm awash in brands. And this is not untypical. You know, retailers, even banks with all the credit cards, insurance products, you name it, it can be overwhelming to sort of go through the company speak that Bruce talked about, or just the jargon themselves. And so we need here is, of course, companies want to have a lot of products on offer to fit a lot of different needs. But again, we're missing that point, which is if Apple's not going to leave you alone on launch day, you know, of their favorite product, let alone on any other day, those blue shirts are in there to help you out, or just like we are in any other brick and mortar environment, why should the same thing happen online? And again, so at this point, what we're doing is I'm sensing a behavior with Moxie. I'm sensing the fact that this person has bounced around several times, right, and may need some assistance. Again, I'm not jumping in to the middle. I'm not taking over the screen. I'm just popping up from the side here saying, if you need some assistance, we're there. But again, it alludes to the fact, the notification alluded to the fact that I know something about you. So again, you talk about that cloudy value that Bruce was bringing up before. This is not just saying you're going to take me down a road. This is sort of saying, hey, you do know something about me. So as I go on to the journey here and I start speaking to the agent knows where I am, the agent behavior that I've been doing, and is primed to help me. And I can have sort of a conversation or a quick conversation in the context where I am in the store. I didn't have to go to the help page, right? And heaven forbid, I did not have channel shift. And the last thing that customers want to do these days, if they have a bad experience on the website, is to call that 1-800 number and get put into an IVR and then be put on hold. We don't want to have one bad experience after another. And so as I finish up here, I can quickly get to the product that I need with just a really short conversation. What we find is that our customers are now who are doing this approach have these amazingly kind of short interactions. In this case, it's a chat, higher value product. Go with it. It may be a product that you want to promote. And as I'm telling you, you can use a variety of different techniques. And so in this case, I'm going to go right to this particular product that the agent has mentioned, and I'm going to move on with my journey. Now, and it's exactly what I needed, a consultation. So if I've found my product, I'm now shifting into another phase of the journey. So the online world sort of amazingly has this unique facet of it, which is we put people into a labyrinth of process where typically someone's going to take your credit card, someone's going to swipe it and work the cash register for you in a brick and mortar environment. But online, we ask people to go through this proprietary cash register process and go ahead and work it yourself. So you want to talk about companies, you want to talk about a perfect time to struggle. It's when I'm going through this form. And so again, being aware and being able to shift, again, is an important thing. So I'm going in here, I'm putting in my phone number, and I'm putting in different things. And what I can get to is I want to then go ahead and let me just refresh that there. Yep. Let's try this again. I'm going to put in a coupon code that worked for me that my cousin who recommended this site had told me about before. And of course, you kind of get this typical thing where it doesn't work, and again, at that point, it's another key time there to come in and say, look, the coupon code doesn't work. Again, a company speak moment. It holds up a stop sign, and what it says to you is, your problem, go figure it out. Now, with Moxie, what I'm able to do at that point is I can actually swoop in at that moment and offer the coupon code, and I can say, without even having a chat, I can just say, here's a working code for you. Now, again, a big part of this that goes into this is, making this to be sort of an ease of use scenario. So this has to be easy to do. So with Moxie, what we've done is we've created this thing called the element mapper. It's a really important part of our business. And so coming in and being able to say, look, as a business user, I want all of these different messages, these different particular problems. If someone's having an error like this, and I want to be able to jump in and know that these things are happening. There are scenarios it's just unavoidable where you're going to fall into these traps. Well, I want to have an easy way to be able to respond and be there for my customer. So with Element Mapper, I don't have to know anything about web design. I don't have to be an expert in the technology of the website. I can simply click the Create button, go on, the technology sort of looks at the code underneath the page and looks at all of the cascading style sheets and then maps an element for you to make a rule off of. So I go ahead and I save my element, and then I can move on. Inside of Moxie on the back-end side, I think what's really important to this is it's not just an anecdotal kind of free-for-all experiment. We're actually giving you the ability to measure some kind of KPIs that are important within a customer journey to understand, right? So, is it just a good idea to try these kinds of offers, or how do I actually measure it? So from any particular offer that's out there, what I'm able to do is to see whether that's driving up conversion, whether that's driving up order value, is it meeting the goals that I want? And if not, I can sit here and go into my rules engine and simply wordsmith and change what any particular rule says. Very simply, the quick load button, I literally can come in here and edit the text of this. I can swap out the picture. I can simply change this from being a proactive invite on a chat to maybe offering an article or offering a chance to email. So I can, on a day-to-day or week-to-week basis, I can change how I am in the store so that I can actually keep up with the promotions that I'm offering, keeping up with the changes in my business, so that I don't have to then end up having this static digital engagements solution where I have to contact the vendor every time I want to change it. All right, so hopefully that gave you a flavor for how this works, and I really appreciate your time. I'm going to now turn it back over to Gillian. Thank you.
Great. So let's open it up for Q&A. Let me switch to the next slide. So I have some questions that have come in. If you have any others for Bruce or Brian, continue to enter those in the chat panel where you will see some chats from me. You can enter those there, and I'll keep checking it as we're going through these. But let's jump to the first one. Let's start with Bruce, and Brian, you'll probably have something to add to this too. But Jennifer says, 50% of my traffic is from mobile. How does struggle impact the mobile visitor versus someone from their desktop?
So this is Bruce. I think mobile actually introduces more struggle. If you just think about two things, right? One is the context of the actual customer, right? In many cases, the customer is doing something else at the same time, moving, or has some urgency around what they're doing because it presented the issue or the opportunity presented itself in that moment. So that's one of so the actual customer journey is oftentimes more urgent, and the customer may actually have a little less focus. The second element is just think about the screen design, right? If you're on mobile, you pretty much can work on one screen at a time. Whereas if you happen to be working on your computer, then if you have a problem on one screen, you can pop out to another screen, use it, pop out to another one, play it, come back, and even, Brian showed the example of the coupon code, right? When you have your computer, it's easy to jump out and search for coupon codes and come back. It's not so easy in a phone. So for those two reasons, I think the fact that the context is more urgent and the ability to work multiple screens at once is much harder, I think customers tend to run into more struggle when they're in a mobile environment.
Brian, anything?
Nothing particularly. I think that it hammers home the point, though, that because of the form factor limitations and the time limitations and distraction limitations, you need to be able to, for the customer to get, they still have the same needs, right, when they're trying to use your services. So they still need to be able to make decisions. They still need to be able to navigate around obstacles. They still need to be able to find what they're looking for. And I think the expectation is that in many cases that they're going to channel shift, right? Give us a call. Well, that's hard to be in the store and on the same time. Imagine trying to look at it with your eyes and put it here at the same time, give it a shot. So the traditional avenues of getting support aren't available to us. So we, at Moxie, our whole vision is, well, let's make sure that we are providing an unobtrusive way of letting the customer get the support they need exactly where they are, and they don't have to hunt for it. Sort of the same ticks for desktop, but really just even more acutely valuable in a mobile context.
Well, and Brian, I remember when we did a couple of months back, we did a webinar with American Eagle, and they were talking about the chats that they were seeing, and they were saying that honestly the chats that they were getting from mobile were no different in context and length and time than chats coming from a desktop. And I think it ties back to your point really well. Like, people want to be able to get the same thing done, and they don't want to have to call from their mobile device.
That's right, and I'm surprised actually that, again, mobile is out there, it's exploded, it's grown. Mobile growth, smartphone growth is what every single industry hopes to emulate. I mean, it's unbelievable how since 2007, everybody seemingly on planet Earth has one, if not two, mobile devices in many cases. Yet, we sort of trudge along within e-commerce, and we sort of go, mobile is the least figured out channel. And we oh yeah, we'll get around to mobile. Oh, our mobile strategy is coming. But what American Eagle is finding out is that, and I think a lot of customers are finding out, is that companies are finding out, is that the majority of traffic is on mobile devices. And if we're not ready, whether it's whether it's an engagement or whether it's the platform or whether it's just the way our products are presented, you're going to find yourself behind the curve pretty quickly for the customers that do go after mobile.
And Bruce, another one for you. Tracy said on struggle 5, let me go back there, that's slide 17. Go back to that one. On struggle 5, she says, can you give an example of selfish behavior?
Sure. Let's say we want to have, and I've seen this many times. We have there are many companies that do it. They want to, if someone's going to buy something from them, they actually want the person to have an account with them so that they can market to them. So if you are not already have an account with a company, before they'll actually let you buy it, they make you set up an account. I think you've seen it many times. That to me is selfish, because we have a need. We want you to be an account holder. We want you to have an account with us, not just buy. And the customer may be there. I just want to buy. I just want to buy a computer from you. Don't make me have to open an account with you. I just want to purchase something. That's an example of selfish behavior, which is when we're doing something to fulfill our needs and not necessarily to fulfill a need that the customer has.
That makes sense. Brian, one directed at you from Emily is, in the example that you showed in the demo of the coupon code not working, did the element mapper, were you popping up a chat window, or was there something else? And I guess the
yep. Sorry,
something else even, right?
Yeah, it was a little bit unclear in the way that the demo manifested there, and forgive me for that. The website hung there for a second. But basically, the point there was, when you're setting up a strategy for engagement, you're not doing this in a vacuum, right? And I think this is one of the subtexts of what Bruce is talking about, is that e-commerce companies are using a variety of tools already to try to combat struggle and to try to understand customer behavior. When you're setting up Moxie, it's no different. The way that would work is, I'm already looking in at what the Tea Leaf team is doing, or the customer experience management team is doing, or what the Opinion Lab team is doing, or what my Site Catalyst team is doing, and the feedback that we're collectively getting. Where are the biggest points of struggle already? Where are the biggest points of abandonment? What are the site errors? Like, so the company speaks site errors. Where are those being issued, and what are those scenarios? So the point there really around the coupon code, and I would have liked to have shown that a little clearer, was with Moxie, as Bruce talked about, often if you get that coupon code error where it's like invalid coupon code, you know, sure, you can, if you're on desktop, it's easier to go find another one, but should you even have to? So my point of that part of the demo was, with Moxie, I can kind of override my own system. So what I can say in that is we have the ability, again, being in the context and understanding the customer there, I can actually look at your cart and say, you know what, this person's worth it. And then I can just shoot them a coupon code. So I didn't even have to spin up a chat. Didn't have to take the time. Didn't have to have one of those delays potentially that Bruce talks about, right? I'm able to just say, I know what you want. You want a coupon code. It's obvious. I'm just going to tell you the answer. I don't have to chat with you. So I can issue you a coupon code because I've looked at your cart value and I've seen that it's over a certain threshold. Conversely, so that people don't go off onto the internet and delay the purchase, which they may never come back, right? If they're under a certain threshold, I can use Moxie to reinforce that I want there as well. If they're under the threshold for which I might give them a coupon code to kind of prevent that search, right? Put more clicks in them, take more time. I might say, hey, you know what? We're not taking any coupon codes right now. Simple as that. And so again, I can both reinforce the behavior that the customer wants. I can also reinforce what's at this point is best to get the transaction done, which is to keep the customer on track.
Perfect. Well, I was hoping to eke out one more question, but we ran out of time, and I want to be cognizant of the time that everybody has. So if we didn't get to your question, I can promise you that we'll try to address it via email. So let's end there for today. I did want to just reiterate, because I did have some questions about this, that everything was recorded from today, and we will be sharing the recording and related materials with everyone tomorrow. Do also keep an eye out. About an hour from now, you'll be getting a link to a calculator that we've put together that I think is really telling on exactly what you guys can expect to get in return on digital engagement technology. So keep an eye out for that. It's a calculator. And of course, we always welcome the opportunity to discuss our platform with you further. You can respond to any of the emails that you've received, as well as any of the contact information that you see here on the screen. And we look forward to speaking with you and hearing from you again soon. Thank you to Bruce for joining us and walking us through the struggles. Thank you, Bruce.
Oh, my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Sure thing. And thank you, everyone, for joining. See you next time.